Hello, welcome to Spread Book Joy. Today I want to talk to you about Finding Bear by Hannah Gold. If you're new to the channel, I'm Jack. I'm a qualified primary school teacher who shares great books for children for home or school, and on this channel I also talk about my own reading. But today I want to talk to you about the sequel to this book, The Last Bear by Hannah Gold. If you haven't read The Last Bear by Hannah Gold, we might have some spoilers for this book. So if you think you're going to read this, I have a review of it, so you can check that out. I'll link it in the description box below, so you can go over and check out that review and see if it's something you'd like to read. But The Last Bear, in a nutshell, was a book about this young girl who, April, who goes to work with her father, who is a scientist, a climate scientist, I believe, who then goes to the Arctic, and she goes with him for the summer, and they spend the summer on an island in the Arctic where she discovers this bear, the last bear it's called. It's the last bear left behind. When the ice has melted, he wasn't able to get off the island, so he's been left behind. Normally they would migrate across the ice, but he wasn't able to. So it showed the effects of climate change. So this book, I've got a review of it. I'll link it in the description box below. If you've not read it, I'd suggest reading this before watching the rest of the review. So at the start of Finding Bear, we are reunited with April and her father, who are back in England after their adventures in the Arctic, and they are back at school. April is not having a good time at school. She misses Bear, who she had made best friends with, and she talks about bears quite a lot, and so she's teased at school quite a bit about her obsession with polar bears. Her father has also started seeing the head teacher at her school, and I think April is feeling a little bit left out and a bit neglected. So at the start of the book, she's not a very happy girl. She misses the Arctic, she misses Bear, she misses her father a little bit as well. Then April sees a news report that a polar bear was shot in Svalbard, and she just knows. She knows that it is Bear from her original story. So the bear was shot and wandered off, and she feels or hears Bear calling to her, and she convinces her father that she needs to go and find out what happened and if it is Bear. So that's how the story starts. April's father takes her over to Svalbard. When they get to Svalbard, they have to find someone who's going to tell them what might have happened, who might take them out to have a look for Bear. And of course, no one in there wants to go and look for a wild, possibly wounded polar bear. So again, we've kind of, in the first book, one thing that I found tricky to suspend my disbelief of is, particularly for children who might live in the Arctic Circle, polar bears are dangerous. And this is a story about a girl who befriends a polar bear, and children who live in the Arctic Circle or live in places where polar bears are becoming increasingly closer to humans as their hunting grounds are becoming scarcer and melting because of climate change. So for some children around the world, polar bear threat is a real thing. So one thing I felt a bit uncomfortable with was this idea that she made friends with this polar bear. So I think the big caveat here that if you lived somewhere where it's possible that you might see a starving or hurt polar bear, you don't go near it. But we have to suspend our disbelief for this story because the link between Bear and April is very strong in this story. They have a connection. So when she gets to Svalbard, April and her father, she wants to go out and look for Bear, but of course they have to convince people to go and look for a wild and injured polar bear. And so that's a really difficult job, particularly people who live in the Arctic, who live near these creatures and live these animals, and they know that they are to be left alone and not to go near them. So they managed to persuade one of the characters from the previous book. I think he was one of the sailors who took them to the island in the original book, and they get a local guide who they have to lie to and pretend that they're going to see the Northern Lights before she'll take them on her sled with the huskies out into the tundra so that they can go and hunt for Bear. But she thinks they're looking for the Northern Lights. So that's the start of the story, and the atmosphere that's created by Hannah Gold is wonderful. She paints a really vivid picture of the Arctic, of the setting, of the characters, and I just thought it was another amazing book. Scattered throughout, of course, we've got these wonderful illustrations by Levi Pinfold, again, who has illustrated the book, and their illustrations are just so beautiful and they really bring the story to life. I don't want to give any more spoilers about what they find when they find Bear, what happens, but I really was pleased with the ending of the story because it felt a little bit unfinished at the end of the last Bear for me, and I'm glad to see that we get to revisit April and Bear and find out what happens to both of them, and in the end they do get a very, very happy ending, which I'm pleased to report. If you like this video and you've never been here before and you'd like more middle grade recommendations, I have a middle grade playlist which I'll link in the description box below. Maybe consider subscribing. I do reviews of middle grade books, occasional reviews of picture books, as well as talk about my own reading. And if you like this video, please click like, maybe leave a comment. Polar bear, if you're not sure what to say, put a polar bear emoji or a bear emoji or an ice emoji for the Arctic, and hopefully I'll see you again here soon. Bye.